In the previous video, we saw how we work with retouch and touch up the images like pictures in GIMP, and how we can alterate the image by creating like new elements of the image or deforming the shape of a body, of a face, or of an entire figure, or also we can use the healing and the clone to hide the effects. So we can either, again, do correction or alteration of the image. Now, in this video, I want to show you also another tool related to the clone tool, which is right here, and it's the perspective clone. And then we're going to move on with other topics that are more for things like architecture or fashion design or well, similar fields. And these are the patterns. So how we can work with patterns, which could be like hatches for technical drawings, and could be also like to simulate a material or to simulate some graphics. But we're gonna work with this in just a minute. Now, before we start working, let's get some images that we can use. And I've just made some searches here on Google. So if you search for pattern, you will see that there are many different types of patterns. So patterns that can be used on a wall. And usually these are intended to be repeated. So these are like tiles that can be repeated over and over again on a surface. So this is why we also talk about tiling. So these are meant to be repeated graphics. This is what a pattern is in graphic design. And it's not only used in graphic design again, but also in other fields. I'm gonna show you some other example shortly. So if I search for pattern, I can look for these on the web. I can save them as an image and I can use them then in GIMP and convert this into actual patterns. Now, there are some texture or patterns that will have seams. Now, seams are cuts between one tile and the other. So sometimes you want those cuts because you want to represent actually a tile, but most of the time you want a continuity. And so you don't want the image to stop with a cut and then restart again. I'm going to make some example later just to tell you what are the most important things. And so I just searched for this vintage here, vintage pattern for a wall. So you can use this for interior designs, for example. And this looks like as a repeatable texture. You can see this graphic here ends here, but then restarts right here. So a good texture should be what is called a seamless texture. Now, that's another term that we can use to search for texture. And again, you can search for seamless texture, which will be better, or you can use just the standard texture, but you need to make sure that they don't have seams or cuts. Textures are also used in materials and shaders in the 3D world. So once you understand how to create a texture, you can use it again in 2D in GIMP, or you can use it in 3D in Blender or whatever other 3D software. So it's really important to know what they are and how you can also customize it and fix them if they have seams and so on. So we're gonna see also this part here. And I've chosen this one, which is from RawPixel. It's a concrete texture. So you see all the information here if you want to get them, but you can use any texture that you really want. Doesn't matter. And we can also search for patterns or textures by searching download pattern. In this case, we can directly download the pat format, which is the pattern format. So it's .pat, and that's the extension. And this can be used in Photoshop, but again, the GIMP is a free alternative of Photoshop, so we can use it also here. So I've chosen this website, but again, you can find your own, and here you can just click on a pattern and then you click on click download this file, and that's it. You can use the pat format, as you can see right here. That's the one that you want to look for if you want to work with patterns. But again, any image can be fine. I'm going to show you how you can convert it into an actual pattern. So you can search for texture, and here I chosen this one that it's kind of in perspective. It's a tile pavement, tile floor. And I've chosen this one here because I want to show you another technique to convert this perspective into a flat image that we can use as a texture. So a texture, if they are not flat like this, they cannot be used. So you need to fix them. And we can do this really easily in GIMP. So I've just downloaded also this one here, and we can use texture for representing clothing. Um, so we can use it on t-shirt graphics like this one here, or this one here, public domain t-shirt, also this one here from Wikimedia. So we can use these images to play around with our texture, and that's the t-shirt right here. So you can download it on Wikipedia or similar. You don't need to use the same exact images. These are just suggestions for you to use the tools that we're going to use in this video. And then in the 2D world, when we use vector graphics, especially with architecture engineering, we use the hatches, which are basically patterns, but these are more like technical patterns made of lines and dots and dashed lines. So they represent a material or a section of a material. And again, it's another way, it's another form of the pattern. So patterns, again, can be used in many different fields. So if I have a plan view of an apartment like this, I can, instead of leaving it totally black and white, I can fill it here, the various areas with colors, or I can use, again, some texture to represent the material to give more information about that interior or that architecture. So that's another way we could use this feature. Now let's jump into action here in GIMP, and let's start with this lesson in GIMP. And we're gonna start, as I said at the beginning, with the perspective clone. So it's gonna be similar to the clone. So what I'm gonna do is open up here an image that I have chosen, and it's in perspective. So you need to have an image that it's in perspective to test this. And so I have this, let me see here, image. There you go. And it's, you see, it's a view from Sicily, but doesn't matter. And what it matters is that I can definitely see the perspective in here. So what I can do is to use the perspective clone tool. Well, it can be done in two different phases. The first one is to define a perspective, and the second one is to clone a part into this perspective. So if I do first modify perspective, I can click here and I can decide how my perspective will be. So I can choose here like the horizon, and then I can start to push this. You can see that you can use the transforming handles here, and you can start trying to follow in the bushes in here to, try to recreate that perspective in there. And when I'm finished, I just change here from modify perspective mode into the perspective clone. And this is when I start to work with the clone. And it works exactly like the standard clone that we saw in the previous lesson. So I'm gonna zoom here a little bit. I'm gonna hit Control and click here, and that's gonna put a crosshair on that part of the image, and then I can paint that into another part, which is probably gonna be closer. So let's say that I'm gonna paint right here. You can see I'm painting the same exact thing, but it's bigger. Well, it's actually too big, so it's probably too much. So let's try to fix this a little bit. So try, well, if it's too stretched, you may wanna change the perspective a little bit. So you need to play around as usual, you need to experiment. But what I would do actually to solve this issue, if it's gonna show, is to create another layer here. I'm gonna create a new layer, a new transparent layer, and I'm gonna paint onto that layer. So you can see that the more I get closer, the more this is gonna get big. And since now that I painted this into another layer, and another important thing to do this is to have sample merge, to paint, to get the sample from one layer and paint on another layer. You wanna have sample merge. This is really important. And so now I can adjust it. I can like use the other tools like the eraser also to get rid of the image, the rest of the image that I don't need. but you can see it's pretty stretched. So once we get rid of the extra parts here, I'm just gonna do this quickly, but of course you can take your time, but I'm gonna go real fast. So you can see that if I want to fix that because it's too stretched, let me just check something here. Let me see the transform here and perspective. Okay, you can see this is backward. So let's try to flip this normal forward. So that could be the issue right there. So we just delete this and recreate the the perspective. So I'm just gonna go here and then adjust this. There you go. Let's do it really quick. Okay, and that's pretty much it. So I can adjust this maybe to match the perspective a little better. Okay, and let's change now to perspective clone. Hit Control there and click, and then recreate it. Okay, no, we didn't fix it. Well, that's fine. Let's finish this. So what I'm gonna do first is get rid of the extra, and then there you go. Something really quick, but you can be really more defined here. But essentially, when I finish to get rid of the extra stuff, I can simply transform this. I can transform it with the standard perspective or another of these transform tools. So if I use perspective, well, you can see this is going to be really big. So you may want to like decrease the size of the layer, but all we need to do is just, you know, make it a little bit smaller in terms of height. So this could be already good. And you can see it's the more I get closer, the more it's going to get big. So this is why this is useful if you want to clone using the perspective. Now I'm going to go back and let's use the textures or patterns. So to use those, the best thing you probably want to do, the quickest thing is to use the bucket fill tool. And in here, you just select the pattern. Now, if I click on this, you can see I can access the various patterns that I have, and these are presets patterns that we can use coming from the software, from GIMP, and we can make these bigger and smaller depending on if we want to see just the image or also the information. Now, these numbers are the pixels that are actually contained inside the texture that you choose. So the bigger is the texture, the more visible will be if you have like a big image and so on. So these are like fixed dimension. You cannot scale the texture right away like in other software because this is not vector graphics. These are raster. So let's say that I use bricks and then I click here and fill the image with bricks. And again, remember that you have a threshold here, as we saw also previously, and you have other blending mode and things that we already saw. But essentially, if I fill this, you can see the bricks there. They have their size. I go here and change the scale image. So let's make this like 2000. So it's kind of a half size. Okay, and I fill it with the same exact brick. You see the brick is going to be bigger. So you can fill with these presets texture right here, or we can also create our own. And once we can also see which pattern are out there. So if you don't have the pattern tool right here, to access the pattern, we can go to Windows, Dockable Dialogues, and go to the pattern. There you go. So this is where you can see all the patterns. You can select them, and you can also duplicate a pattern, and you can delete a pattern. You can refresh the patterns, and you can also open one of these images as a pattern. So if I get the bricks right here, this is stone, and let me see where are the bricks. Well, it doesn't matter. Let's use the stone, which I think is bricks anyway. So if I want to see this as an image, I can open it, and that's the image that I'm using. You can see it's really low res, but it doesn't matter because it's going to be repeated, and thanks to the repetition, it's going to cover large areas. So this panel here can help you to access and also modify, create your own pattern. So for example, if I want to customize this, let's change this color here. Let's do like something with the hue saturation. Let's change here the saturation. Let's make it black and white. Okay, so I can save this now as a new pattern, a customized pattern. Now to do this is really simple. We need to go to edit, and we need to go to copy. So we can copy everything, it's on the screen, and then we go again to edit, and we can do paste as new pattern. Now we did a similar thing with the brush. So now it's going to create a new pattern. Let's call this W black and white bricks. Okay, and then I'm gonna copy this also. Sorry, bricks, and I'm gonna do the same thing down there. Okay, so it's gonna create a new pattern. You can see it's right there. And now if I want to apply this, it's gonna be already here in the bucket fill tool. You can see black and white bricks. Otherwise, I can just select them from here. So if I click, now I have created my customized texture starting from one of these presets right here. Now you can also right click, and you see here you can open again the image, the pattern as an image, or you can copy the pattern location, or you can show where this is in your computer. So if you click here, it's going to open up a folder where all your patterns will be stored, or your customized patterns. And you can see that the format is .pat, so it's a pattern, and you can copy this and paste this anywhere. You can use it also in other software that supports the same format. And you can see I already created other ones starting from the presets. Now we can also create the pattern out of, you know, any image that we have. So we created this image in the previous video, so I want to use this. Now before you do that, you want to see what the dimensions are. So if I go again to image, scale image, you can see this is pretty big to be a texture. So what I'm going to do, or a pattern, so what I'm going to do is detach the two sides. So I'm going to choose like something like 200, which is pretty big, but you know, not as big as it is right now. So I'm going to do 200 times 200 and scale. And now I want to use this. Well, I can also like specify an area. So if I don't want to use the whole image, well, I can select basically. So if I copy here, I'm going to copy everything. If I want to copy only the face, let's try with something really quick like an ellipse select. So I'm just going to select the face like this, and then I'm going to do again copy or Control C, and then paste as new pattern, and we will call this face circle, whatever, doesn't matter. So okay, and now I'm going to go back in here, and I'm going to fill that background with this image. You can see, or I can also fill everything up if I increase the threshold. Okay, now another thing I can use with the fill that we mentioned before is to use the pattern but fill by the line art detection, and right now it's detecting the line art, but let's use another image. I'm gonna open up one of the t-shirt here that I found. There you go. And this is an SVG, by the way, it's scalable vector graphic, but the moment I bring in GIMP, it's gonna be converted into pixels. So there you go. And now I can use this to test and try to change a little bit here the parameters. Let me just reset everything, and let's like redetect Well, it should work, but sometimes it doesn't. So don't know really why. Sometimes it works and why other times not. Let me see here. Well, since this is pretty easy to work with, you can just use similar color. So you can see we are filling with the foreground color, but I can use my pattern, as you can see. So it's really interesting if you want to do fashion design. There you go. And yeah, if you want to make this smaller, we need to go here and just scale again the image size. So scale image, let's do this 100. So that's the only way we can manage the scale. If you want to do this bigger, you can do it, but it's going to lose a little bit of quality because it's not vector graphics. So let's just edit and paste this as another pattern. Let's make this 2. Again, let's go back here and let's use this other one. And it's probably got a little bit smaller, but we can also change the size here of the image. So we either scale the texture or we scale the image. So let's make this like 2 times bigger. And with the cubic interpolation, it's going to try to recreate the pixels. And you can see now I have a smaller element repeated, and I have more repetition. So scale affects the repetition, the tiling of that particular effect. I'm going to create here a new document now, so we can see something total blank. So here we can also change and choose particular category. So we have animal, fabric, wood, water. No, there is not too much choice here, but we can again create our own. I'm going to show you how you can create other texture. But once we get the texture, we also have other option here. So we can either copy and paste as a new pattern, but if we go down, we can also fill it in here. So we can do fill with pattern right here, or we can do we can use a selection. So if I create again a circular selection like this, well, we can use the bucket fill and just fill the inside of this selection, or we can do here the fill selection outline with a pattern and fill, or we can also do the stroke selection pattern, and let's use a line width. Let's use like 20 pixels for the line width. Use a pattern and stroke. So you can see it's going to create, well, that's too tiny, but you can see it's creating here a path using that pattern and using that circular selection. Those are like different ways you can use the patterns. Now I want to open the other texture that I saved from raw pixel, and I'm gonna just open them in different images. So this one here, it's probably good in the repetition, but if we want to test the repetition and if it doesn't have cuts or seams, we can see it right away just by using the shift the pixels command here. So the offset command. So if I click and drag, you can see that there is actually a cut right here. We don't have it, like we don't have any horizontal cut. So the tile is gonna work good in vertical, but you see this is not good. So this is not a good texture. And also here I can see now the horizontal cut. So this is not correctly repeated. So you need to make sure that your texture are seamless if you want to repeat them in a correct fashion. Otherwise, you need to fix this. And this is really hard to fix because we have like a design here that we need to recreate. So in this case, it's better and it's easier because we don't have like a graphic element defined as this, but we have like fine texture. So we can better hide those seams, and we can do it right away here in GIMP. So again, with the offset, I'm going to click and drag, and I can also use these by half of the width and half of the height. So we can see now definitely those seams. and say okay, and now we will hide this. How do we hide them? Well, it's really simple. We can hide them with the clone. So I can use a control click and use this part and clone that part here and just hide those seams. Or I can use the healing just as we did with the photo correction. I can hide defects, and there you go. So if you want to test this, just again go here in the shift, click and drag, and there you go. There is some visible seam right here also, so I'm gonna go back and fix also this. There you go. So control click and then hide there in the part. And again, offset and see if there are more visible seams and just fix them. So this is one way we can create a texture. Now there is also a harder situation, a more complex situation, and that is when I have also the perspective like this. So first of all here, I need to make this flat. So I can use, we already saw this previously in the perspective, we can use the corrective backward. And now let's try to understand what we can get here. So I'm gonna place these handles in the correct position where I can get the most of this image, probably here, like this. And this one is gonna go here. And this one here is gonna go here, something around here. So you can see we don't have enough space right here, so we need to diminish a little bit. So you need to follow the perspective here like this and then just transform. And now you can see this is nice and straight. And let's also fix this. Let's stretch it. So I want to take off the link and let's make this like 600 times 600. So it's going to be perfectly square, nice for a texture. And there you go. So we have something now which is definitely better. But again, with the offset, I need to click and drag, and I need to hide those seams. So these are better when you need to hide because you actually have the cut between one tile and the other. We can see the part of the concrete. So that's better when we need to hide. And of course, we can use again the clone. And let's make this smaller. I'm gonna get this from here. I'm gonna use it like in here to create a nice repetition, and also here perhaps. So well, sometimes it's tricky in this time, but you can see it's better and better. Now let me just open the other architecture apartment plan just to show you real quick how we can use this. So I'm just gonna go to edit, copy, and edit, paste as new pattern. So I have a new pattern, and this is gonna be tiles blue, and let's go here, and I'm gonna use the again bucket, and we can try with fill by the art detection again. And there you go. Now it's kind of working in here. It's detecting the borders. But in this situation, it's probably better and faster to use just the fill similar color and just use the borders as limits. But you can see it's pretty big. Well, it's either the texture that is too big or the image that is too small. Now in this case, the image is pretty small. So again, we're gonna do to image, scale image, and let's make it really big. Like let's increase it in 4K resolution. And yeah, it's warning you that it's gonna create a really big image. But now, and this is again a cubic interpolation, so it's interpreting and it's trying to make this better as best as it can, but these are not vectors, so they're going to be a little bit blurred, so that's fine for this example. But you can see now when I fill these areas, the texture is going to look better, and you can use it again for interior design, architecture, and so on. So I want to finish with one last topic. So let me see here. Well, we can use this. This is fine. So this is about the buffer. So if I go to Windows, dockable dialogues, we can open up the buffers. And this is another way we can kind of save our selection somewhere. So if I use, again, the circular selection here, click and drag, you can copy and paste this as you like, but you can also copy and paste it with the buffer. So if you go to buffer, you can copy named, and you can copy this like, I don't know, area 1. Okay, and it's going to be saved now right here. So I can always retrieve it from here, and I can paste also. So I can come here and paste it as a floating selection or as a new layer. And let me just exit the selection here. So select none. Okay, so you can see it's right there. I can always paste it again many times. Or I can paste the selected into the selection. So paste it into another selection, or paste it directly as a new layer. Or I can here paste the selected buffer as a new image. So it's going to create an entirely new image right here. Or we can just delete this saved part of the image. So it's basically a part of the image that have been saved as a selection in this buffer panel, and that's it. Nothing too fancy, but this is to complete also with other tools and panels and windows in GIMP. So we're gonna stop here for this lesson. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please subscribe to the channel. If you want to support us, please join the channel as a supporter, and see you in the next lesson.